He only wanted a place to sleep, a flat scrap of earth that didn't tilt him toward some lonely ditch. Instead, the night handed him 3 Apache and a lesson about how a place sleeps and wakes and watches back. The road had unwound all-day 2-lane blacktop through ponderosa pines that thinned to juniper and prickly pear, then dropped into a bowl of stone where the air smelled like dust and metal. His little car had protested with a red light and a squeal. He'd steered it off onto a dirt track and killed the engine, letting the heat soak upward into the fading sky. The wash looked dry and hard as bone. He spread his blanket beside the car, a habit from years of making do, and let his spine find the ground. He was so tired that the canyon rim leaned like a chair back against the stars. He hadn't closed his eyes more than a minute when headlamps poured down the track, catching him in a sudden, white daylight. He sat up with his hand raised, blinking, and the light clicked off. A truck door thumped, and then another, and gravel popped under boots. 3 silhouettes resolved against the afterglow. A man with a baseball cap and the steady shape of someone who'd helped carry a lot of things. A young woman with her hair in a long braid under a hoodie. A boy about 16 bundled in an army surplus blanket, the reflective stripes on his sneakers winking like little signals. "You camping?" the man asked. His voice was level, not unkind, but it carried the surety of someone who wasn't asking a question to open a conversation. "I was hoping to," he said. "Car overheated. I just need to sleep. I'll be gone by dawn." The woman stepped past the beam of the truck's amber light and looked toward the low sky to the north. "Not here," she said. "Not tonight. That wash runs if the storm above Cedar Ridge drops water. You don't have to see it here for it to find you." He'd seen a bruise of cloud on the horizon hours back, like a problem that belonged to someone else. "Doesn't look like rain," he said, and heard, even as it came out of him, how far away he was from the knowledge of this place. "Doesn't matter," the boy said. "Water travels. Also, this is my aunt's lease. She doesn't like strangers sleeping on her doorstep without asking. Can't blame her." "Right," he said, embarrassment falling across him and then something like shame. He'd meant no harm, but meaning didn't change the fact of where he'd laid his blanket. "I can go. He looked at the car, mutinous and steaming. "Let's get you to a safe spot first," the man said. "I'm Gus. This is my niece Lila, and my nephew Tyler. We're checking fire lines because we've had lightning up north. You can follow us into town or we can bring you to my sister's yard. Safer," he added, glancing at the sky. "And there are dogs. Thieves don't like dogs. And bears," Tyler said, a smile flickering across his face. "They don't love dogs either." "I'm Evan," he said. The relief at being seen lifted him out of his bedroll. "I'll move. Thank you. I can pay you for." "Don't worry about that," Lila said. "Just pack up. Your battery dead." "Maybe," he admitted. "And my radiator." "We've got water," Gus said. "And a jump. Come on." Working by the truck's courtesy light, they moved with a wordless efficiency he envied. Tyler unscrewed the radiator cap with a rag, trickling water in slow so steam wouldn't bucket back. Lila gathered his scattered things: blanket, camera bag, a paperback with the corner chewed from being jammed into his pack too many times, and set them on the back seat of his car. The taste of desert grit was in his mouth where the night's first test had salted him. "Where am I, exactly?" he asked, as the cables clamped to his battery and the car's dash lights jump-started into a little constellation of warnings. "You're on White Mountain Apache land," Lila said. "We call ourselves Ndee, the people, but the maps say White Mountain Apache Tribe. Town's White River. There's a gas station with a coffee machine that lies and says it's fresh. She grinned. You'll live. Evan had been driving the scenic route, the one the tourist blog had promised would wash his mind with sky. He felt suddenly like someone who'd wandered into a church while fumbling for a place to put a vending machine. I didn't mean to trespass. I'm sorry, he said. Lila shrugged. You're here now. Just listen to the land next time. He almost laughed. That was exactly the thing he hadn't done in months. Listening required the kind of quiet he'd been avoiding. He'd been running on caffeine and podcasts and the radio between static-laced towers, all to keep from hearing what waited when the engine cut off. His job had ended, his lease was up. He was going east to family because it seemed like the least wrong thing to do. A smell threaded into the night then, burn and resin and metal. The three turned their heads at the same moment, like deer pricking their ears. Gus sniffed the air and touched Lila's elbow. Upslope, he said. Ty, get the beanos. They hadn't come down that track for him at all, Evan realized. They were moving the way people move when a place asks something of them. He felt suddenly, absurdly, like a weight. I can follow you in, he said quickly. You don't have to. Gus shook his head. We'll take you to my sister's, then go look. Or, he added, glancing at the wash again, you can come with us and then we'll drop you. Safer in numbers tonight. He didn't know the right thing to choose. This was not his place, not his work. But the smell prickled his skin, and there was that voice inside him that wanted for once to be useful. I'll come, he said. If you need extra hands. We always need extra hands, Lila said, like it was a truth as old as the land itself. They slid into the truck. Tyler with the binoculars knelt backward, eyes scanning the edges where ridge met sky. The night gathered itself into shape as they climbed. The wash fell away, replaced by a shoulder of earth and a stand of pinyon that rattled as the truck shouldered through. Gus kept one hand on the wheel and one on the radio, speaking low into it, not dramatizing, just naming what he thought he smelled. Maybe a single snag. Maybe a strike on the flat. We'll look. Evan had always loved the idea of fire from far away, a mythic brightness that made the news pretty. Up close, it was a noise, a breath, a fat crackle, a stampede of small sounds. From the ridge they could see it, a thin orange seam threads across the rim of a shallow basin, moving with the confidence of something that's done this 1,000 times. Lila handed Evan a shovel and a headlamp. Stay with me, she said. Don't do anything that feels heroic. Just scrape down to mineral soil. Make the fire work for you. He wanted to ask 100 questions, but he kept his mouth closed and his body easy the way he did sometimes at his best moments. They moved in a line, Gus on the radio, Tyler wetting down a swath of brush with a pump strapped to his shoulders, Lila and Evan scraping furiously at the dark ground until their palms learned the rhythm of lifting and throwing. The wind shifted and warmed their cheeks. The line they'd cut made a clean necklace of dirt around the live fringe and then, as if the fire had taken the hint of being raised right, it crept to the edge and laid itself down into the black. Tyler whooped once and then caught himself, looking to his uncle the way kids do when they're measuring rightness. Gus grinned and nodded once. Good, Gus said, like they'd set a table. After, they sat on their heels and waited, because waiting is part of all hard work. The stars tugged the sky open wider. Tyler passed a canteen. The water had a mineral tang that felt honest on Evan's tongue. Lila stretched her neck and rolled her shoulders. She looked like she could fall asleep sitting up, and also like she belonged to this exact spot in a way Evan envied. We'll watch 20, Gus said. If it stays down, we can hand it to the night crew. Evan, we'll take you to Teresa's. She'll find you a corner for that blanket. He nodded at the rolled wool in Evan's hand. You look like you haven't slept right in a while. I haven't, Evan admitted. It surprised him to say it. The admission felt like putting down a bag he didn't know he'd been carrying. Lila tipped her head toward the dark. Sometimes sleep is easier when someone else is awake, she said. That's what aunties are for. And dogs. She smiled. And sometimes you can't sleep until you hear the land settle from whatever it was doing. Tonight it was doing fire. The flame made a low sound that could, if you let yourself, read as purring. Evan watched it shrink back into its snag and then into a red line around a stump. The line they'd cleared gleamed with little white stones like an unstrung necklace. He found himself awake in a way that wasn't about fear or caffeine. Awake to the insects ticking in the brush, to Tyler's whisper as he named constellations he'd learned from his grandfather, to the way Gus massaged his wrists like a piano player after a long song. When the night cruise truck came up the fire road, lights ghosting the trees, they handed over with quick, efficient words. Gus drove them down through the dark, the truck's heater thumping warm air onto Evan's muddy boots. They turned into a yard with a chain-link fence and a low house painted a gentle blue. Dogs announced their arrival and then, recognizing family, turned it into a celebration. Aunt Teresa came out in a robe and laughed at the state of the three of them. Who'd you adopt? She asked, looking over Evan's shoulder at his car rolling in behind, a little dazed. He's a driver with bad luck, Lila said. He needs a place to sleep. We're heading back out if dispatch calls. Teresa's eyes flicked over Evan the way a nurse checks for bleeding. She nodded once and opened the door wider, already reaching for a stack of folded quilts. You sleep on the couch, she said. Shoes off by the door. There's coffee if you want it. There will be eggs in the morning. Her voice made room for him like a hand pulling back a curtain. I can stay in the car, he said, the old idiocy of refusing kindness rising and then, thank God, dropping away. Thank you. I won't be in the way. You'll be asleep, she said. Can't be in the way asleep. He lay on the couch in a room lined with family photographs, graduations, basketball teams, a black and white portrait of a woman in a buttoned dress whose gaze could probably cut steel. The quilts smelled of cedar. The dogs settled under the window like disreputable angels. He felt his body vibrate with leftover adrenaline, the way it does after work that matters. He thought he would lie there awake thinking about fire or about the long road east. Instead, the house made a low hum around him, refrigerator motor, the clock's patient step, the murmur of Lila's and Tyler's voices as they washed ash from their hair, and he fell down into sleep the way rain sometimes falls here. All at once, from far away, completely. He woke to the sunrise painting the fence silver and a plate on the milk crate by the couch with a foil-wrapped burrito and a handwritten note, keys on hook. Dogs are liars, don't feed them. T. Gus was outside by the car, checking belts and hoses. Lila was laughing at something Tyler had said about his shoes. Evan put on his boots and stepped into a morning that felt washed. We put a new clamp on your radiator hose, Gus said. It'll hold long enough to get you to a real shop. If you want to go the long way out, go slow through the reservation. Wave at people. Don't stop on the side of the road, you'll cause uncles to materialize and lecture you for your own good. He smiled. I do it myself if I see you. Evan felt the old itch to leave fast, to get ahead of whatever might catch him if he tarried. Instead, he found himself standing with his hands in his pockets, wanting a few more minutes. I don't know how to thank you, he said. I only wanted a place to sleep. You gave me a night, Lila said. That's different. Nights matter. Tyler dug in the truck's glove box and came up with a battered Sharpie. Write your name and number, he said, holding the marker out. So if you get yourself stuck again, we can make fun of you. And come get you. He wrote it on the back of one of Teresa's grocery lists, grinning, and added their names to his phone as if the act could pin this feeling down. Gus with his steady hands, Lila with her wide-awake eyes, Tyler with his laugh, Teresa with her quilts and her fussing. He looked out at the mountains that shouldered up behind the houses, at the line of pine that stitched the land to the sky. Listen, Lila said as he opened his car door. When you need a place to sleep again, ask. The asking is the thing. The land doesn't mind people who ask. He nodded. He backed out slowly, the dogs escorting him to the gate, the morning opening like a hand. He drove the road out of White River with the radio off, letting the hum of the tires give rhythm to the names he'd learned. He passed a man walking with a fishing rod and a boy with a basketball and a woman in a yellow cap with a bag of groceries. He waved. They waved back, or didn't, because no one owes you their attention just because you need it. He took the long way, because it seemed right to do that now. The day would fill with miles and errands and the next short-term plan. He would go where he was going. But under everything, there was that cool seam through the middle of him like the line of cleared earth they'd made around the fire, a place where the heat couldn't jump. He'd come to a wash to sleep and found instead 3 Apache who'd kept him awake for all the right reasons, who'd shown him how a night can hold you up like a bridge if you let people meet you in it. When the road finally curled him back toward the highway and the lane lines stacked their little ladders out ahead, he felt the oddest thing. Not like he was leaving, exactly, but like he'd been folded into the atlas of a place. Somewhere to be, even if only in a story he would tell when someone else said, "I just need a place to sleep."